You know, I gotta say, this whole love your enemies thing, it's always kind of stumped me. Like, it sounds good, right? But how do you actually do it?
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things that's so easy to say, but whew, so
Yeah.
much harder to actually put into practice, isn't it?
Yeah. So today we're taking a deep dive into this idea. We're looking at a passage from Matthew, the one about loving your enemies,
Right.
and we've got a reflection and a prayer to go with it.
Yeah.
So let's see if we can unpack this, like what it actually means, and maybe, just maybe, figure out how it could work in our own lives.
Sounds good.
All right, so Matthew 5.44. Here's what it says. Love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. I mean, whoa, even just reading those words out loud, it's powerful. What makes this verse so radical, especially back then?
Well, think about the context, right? Back then, it was all about an eye for eye. Like if someone did you wrong, you got them back. Retaliation, that was just the way things were.
Yeah.
But Jesus, he comes in and just flips the script.
Yeah.
He's saying something completely different. This kind of love, it goes beyond like our natural human instinct to get even.
It's like a whole other level of love.
Exactly.
So we've also got this reflection here. And one line really jumped out at me. It says, Christ calls us to radical love, even for those who oppose us. This is how we mirror his heart.
Powerful stuff.
It makes me think about how Jesus lived his life. I mean, he was constantly around people who disagreed with him, challenged him, even ultimately betrayed him.
And look how he handled those people. Like, take the Pharisees, right? They were always trying to trip him up, catch him out. But he didn't respond with anger or insults.
No.
He met them with wisdom, with compassion, even when he was pointing out their hypocrisy. I mean, that's radical love in action, you know?
That's such a good point. But this whole idea of mirroring Christ's heart, it feels like, I don't know, a pretty big ask. Does loving our enemies mean we just, like, let them walk all over us? Or that we have to agree with what they're doing? How do we balance this with, protecting ourselves, standing up for what's right?
Yeah, that's a really important question. And I think that's where a lot of people get stuck, honestly. You see, loving your enemy, it doesn't mean you're saying what they did is okay. It's not about condoning their actions.
Yeah.
It's more about making a choice to let go of that bitterness, that
Yeah.
anger that you're holding on to. It's about seeing them, really seeing them as another human being, even when they've hurt you.
Hmm. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So the takeaway from this devotional focuses on something we can actually do. It says, pray for someone who has hurt you. Even if we can't quite wrap our heads around loving our enemies, it feels like prayer could be a good place to start, like a step in the right direction.
Definitely. Prayer is like this secret weapon in these situations. It can really shift your perspective. I remember this one time, a close friend of mine, they really betrayed me. I was so hurt, so angry. It felt impossible to even think about forgiving them.
Wow.
But you know what? It was through prayer that things started to change. I started to see things from a different angle. And I realized that loving them didn't mean I had to pretend what they did was okay. It just meant letting go of that bitterness I was clinging to.
That's so powerful. And it makes me think about the prayer that was included with this devotional. It says, Lord, help me to love and pray for those who are difficult to love. Amen. It's short, but man, it gets right to the heart of it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And acknowledges that this is tough stuff, like it's human to struggle with this. But it also reminds us that we don't have to do it alone. We can turn to God for help.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this deep dive into loving our enemies, what's the big takeaway for everyone listening? What can they take with them from this conversation?
I think the most important thing to remember is that it's a process. This isn't something you just like flip a switch and suddenly you're there. It's a journey, a lifelong journey of learning to love like Jesus loved in every situation. It's not about being perfect. It's about those small steps, like choosing to pray for someone who's hurt you. That's a powerful step.
So good. So as you go about your day to day, think about this. How might praying for that person change your perspective? It may not change what they did, but it might just set you free from some of that anger and resentment. This is about finding peace, finding freedom inside yourself,
Yeah.
even when things are tough.
And honestly, that's a pretty amazing place to be. Thanks for diving deep with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here.